Hi, I'm Sharon Bordeaux from Sharon's Stamping Spot here in Stony Plain, Alberta, Canada. It is snowing out today and we are expecting 20 centimeters at least. And for anybody that doesn't understand metric, that is about 8 inches or more. My husband just got word that his blood donation was canceled because I'm going to guess that the blood donation truck supplies could not get to our location out here. So I'm hiding in my craft space and doing some work, and I am going to share some tips with you today about how to use a stencil and how to make a stencil to color a background. I shared some cards from a card swap the other day, and somebody commented on how much they loved my card. Thank you very much for that. And also asked for a video to show how to do the inside panel. I used stencils and negatives from some die cuts, and I created some panels for the inside of my card using just ink. So without further ado, let's turn this camera around and we're going to go to figuring out how I did that. So these are the cards that I posted, or similar ones. I don't know if these are the exact ones, but of course, the Lights of Aurora paper. It is my absolute favorite, and it's probably going to stay that way for a while. I bought extra packages, and I plan on using them, even though it is on the last chance product list. I buy things that I like, as opposed to buy things just for promoting, etc., etc. So anyway, the panel on the front obviously highlights that DSP, and what I did was I put it onto a panel. It's kind of a monochromatic except for that piece. I used Balmy Blue for the card base on this card. Then I put a panel, and I didn't have an embossing folder that I liked with this, so I actually scored every single one of the lines that you see on this, and I did kind of a grid plaid pattern. It didn't actually take that long, and then I put the panel highlighted by a black mat on top of that. I embossed the different sentiments on here, and I used some of the sparkly Balmy Blue ribbon to finish it off. And I did a similar version in Petunia Pop, because this part of these are actually the same DSP sheet. I took a 6x6 sheet and cut it into 4 pieces, 3x3 each, and this part just spoke to me that I really needed to switch up colors. So half of my 16 cards were Balmy Blue and half were Petunia Pop. I did the same thing. I did have to use a retired ribbon on it because it just didn't look right with the blue. I think this one's Fresh Freesia. So anyway, for this card, oh, there's a hair stuck in there. Get that off. For this card, the front is definitely impressive. I love how it turned out. But the part that was really cool is the inside. So if you look at the inside panel, when you're sending cards in the mail, they already are popped up a lot. I've got dimensionals under the panel. I've got dimensionals under the DSP layer. And I've got dimensionals under the sentiment, plus the embellishments on top. So that makes for a pretty thick envelope already. And it can get problematic sending things in the mail when you get them too thick, and then you start having to pay more money. So I didn't want to do the inside with a whole bunch more layers adding thickness. And I really felt like I had to have an inside that stood up to the beauty of the front. And I think I managed that quite nicely. And I'm going to show you how I did that right now. Okay. So the first thing I needed was my die set. Now this die set goes with the Lights of Aurora suite, but obviously the suite has a stamp set that is all sentiments. The dies for this set are beautiful. You do not need to buy the stamp set. If you want to buy just the dies for this set, there's no reason that you can't, because they're just totally useful on their own. And the one that I used for this project was actually this. Wow. Pop off. There we go. So this is the background trees. I taught elementary for a long time, and I went through this on my sampler class, but when you're looking at artwork, we have foreground and we have background. Now these are nice and small and you could use them just alone, but the other trees are meant to be foreground and these ones are meant to be background, because the farther you get away from the object, the smaller it appears. So we're only going to use this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a scrap. I have some leftover two-tone cardstock from this, and it's actually not bad to use for this because it's a little bit thinner, and I'm going to need it to act as a stencil, so the thinner isn't a bad thing. I wouldn't go as far as bond paper, but you want something that's going to be able to stand up to blending over it, but also not be so thick that it's difficult to get into the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut that piece, and I'll be right back. So this is how the die cut turns out. It's actually just cuts out the image itself, but it doesn't cut off the end, so that I have control over how I want to do that. So I'm just going to take a pair of snips and cut off the end of this die cut. Let's just do it at an angle just cuz. And this I can totally use on a card, whatever I want, but for this purpose, we're actually not using it. So I'm going to get rid of that. And the part that I want to use is the negative from that cut. So what happens is I'm going to use that as a stencil on my paper, and I guess I might have flipped that around. Yep, I did. It doesn't matter which way you go with it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Here we go. So I've got some basic white cardstock pre-cut for a panel for the inside of a card. And like I said a minute ago, you can use this whichever way you want. Position it where you want it. It's nice and long and it fits all over the place, and I literally did every single one of these differently. So I think I'm gonna go there. And what I did first was I took a blending brush. Now I have mine color coded. A friend of mine has a 3D printer. That's what they're called, a 3D printer. And he printed a whole bunch of little clips for my blending brushes, and he did them in different colors so that I can not have to clean all my brushes all the time. So this is a tip. Oh my gosh, lifesaver. This is Memento black ink, but our Memento black ink actually comes like this. And I don't know about you, but I prefer the new stamp pads to the old felt style pads like this. And I always end up a bloomin' mess. Every time I open that up and have it sitting around, I get ink all over my hands. This was a tip I got from a friend, Tamara Bertram. Thank you, Tamara. And I bought a white stamp pad, which comes completely empty because you load it yourself with the white pigment ink. And instead of putting the pigment ink, I just loaded it with Memento. And now I have a black stamp pad that's on the nice foam that all of our other stamp pads are on, and it works great. Okay, so we have our white panel, we have our stencil, and I'm going to load up my brush and just start tapping it in. Now you want to tap it as opposed to sweeping it so much. You can But do you see this little piece here? It starts to bend, okay? And so, wow, and that's the nice thing about a stencil. I could just reposition it, and it really doesn't matter if it doesn't totally fit. And the other thing, do you see the gradations in where that works nicely. And look at that, I ended up with a little bit of shadow. It doesn't matter. So that is just scrap. I can save that for another card or not, up to me. And the next step is to take the rest of the colors, and I'm going to close that one afterwards. It doesn't want to cooperate. So I just grabbed a Night of Navy to do the night sky and started blending. Now, when you're doing the blending brushes, it's a good idea to start off of the card surface, because if you see those harsh lines, but for my purposes, the harsh lines don't particularly matter a whole lot. Now, I do want to be able to write or stamp a sentiment on this, so I don't want to go too far up the card with these dark colors, because that will make it hard to do so. But I do want it to kind of get that ombre down to a faded color, and I want to blend completely over top of that black ink for the trees. So I'm going to do the Petunia Pop just because it is the one that stands out better. I also did cards with Balmy Blue. It just depended on which one I was doing. So I tapped it onto my card, and then rather than blending it, I purposely put it straight down on the card and swipe up, because I want that Northern Lights effect of the sweeping colors into the sky. You can blend it in a little bit if you would like, just to get it so it's not quite so harsh, but I actually don't mind that for this particular purpose. So that is how I created the background for the panel in my card. And I think it kind of emulates the Northern Lights really well. They all turned out slightly different. So I've got, you know, this one got the nice side swipe because I didn't quite get an even color on there. Here's one in Balmy Blue. And again, you can make it whatever direction you want. This one I went lighter on the Night of Navy. So that is how I did it. And when you're all done that, you just pop it into your card and assemble the rest. So I hope you liked my tip there. Keep those negatives. They're worthwhile. They make great stencils for a lot of things. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you another time.